In theory, the show's already started, hasn't it? Oh, well, maybe I better play that Tom's Guitar Show theme. Yeah, okay, here we go. Live TV, everybody. I'm not gonna let it bother me. Thank you, thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tom's Guitar Show. Here's my live cable TV cablecast from Uptown Bill's Coffee House. People ask me what my show is about, and I say, well, it's about an hour. It's about guitar players, guitar playing, all things guitaristic. So anyway, if you haven't been around for the last 21, 22 years, however long I've been doing this, this is Tom's Guitar Show, and where we talk about guitar players, guitar playing, and all things guitaristic. So. But once a month we do it here live from Uptown Bill's Coffee House. And this month is a pretty tame show. Not a huge crowd here or anything like that. It's just little old me playing my guitar, maybe a few guests to come up and do a bit of reading. However, next month we're going to have a minor banjo extravaganza. Yeah, we're going to have a little banjo group. Well, I think I've made as many five or six banjos. More than four. Well, at least four. 4 to 6 banjoists at one time on this stage, playing a variety of different kinds of banjo things. I might not even bring a guitar. And the following month, in April, we're going to have a classical guitar extravaganza, where we're going to have classical guitarists, young and old, performing classical guitar music. And this is basically April is going to be Classical Guitar Month at Tom's Guitar Show, and there's going to be a concert on March 31st, which is the day before April 1st, at the Iowa City Public Library, Meeting Room A, 7:30, I believe. It's a Thursday night. The last day of March. It's going to be a classical guitar concert. There'll be 2 featured artists, and we're going to play repertoire, everything from, basically from the 16th century to the later 19th century. I think there might be a 20th century piece in there, but, some Bach, called Boch. Some of the dead Italians from the early 19th century, Carcassi, Carulli, Giuliani. So we're going to do that, and I'm hoping that the group, speaking of classical guitar, he said was holding a steel string, that is going to play afterwards, or actually in the intermission, excuse me. Well, I'm babbling again. What I'm trying to say is that we have a Iowa City Classical Guitar Society, which is sponsoring this thing. In the Iowa City Public Library, but we meet on the 4th Saturday of each month, and that's this week. So here at Uptown Bill's Coffee House, where I am now, and by the way, if you want to come and watch this show, The Magic Being Made, you can come right down to Uptown Bill's if it's Tuesday, and you'll be on TV with me. But we are having our meeting, 2 o'clock, on this coming Saturday, which is the 4th Saturday of the month, and we're going to play with and for each other. You don't have to be a classical guitarist, you come and listen if you want. There'll be people in different stages of development playing classical guitars. And we're going to do I want to put something in the middle of this concert, some, interim thing. Now we're trying to put together a trio or a quartet. We haven't had enough rehearsal time together to really do anything, so This is a long-term goal, is to have maybe a guitar quartet. So, actually, I should be playing guitar instead of talking, but what I want is to have a guitar quartet play the continuo, as in the orchestral part, for Vivaldi Mandolin Concerto in C, and have a mandolinist play first the mandolin part, who could be me, but I have another guy I'd like to see him do it, actually. And if that goes well, then there's another concerto, lute concerto in D major, which makes a great guitar concerto. And so rather than having an orchestra, string orchestra, we have 4 classical guitars for the continua. Maybe 4 classical guitars and a string bass. I don't know. I think that'd be great. We could play it right here at Uptown Bill's someday in the future, but we don't have the group together yet. But we do have a meeting. If you want to play classical guitar, if you're interested, or you just want to listen to some people play classical guitar, free of charge, Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock, Uptown Bill's Coffee House. All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, well, this here is a Breedlove guitar. It's built in Bend, Oregon, and I suppose there are better guitars in the world. Not that many, but there are better guitars. Anyway, no, it's a nice guitar. I have three of these. I went through a real. Well, I don't have to keep sharing my personal problems. It's nice that my personal problems are usually guitaristic in nature, and they can be solved by having a modest income and a relationship with a couple of music stores. So anyway, I got this at West Music. I got three of these. The little one, which is the parlor size, which I'm very fond of, and then the concert size, which is a little bit bigger, about the same size as a classical guitar, slightly different shape. And that one's really nice too. It might be my favorite, maybe not. I don't know. And then there's this one, which is what they call the auditorium size, which is pretty nice, and which is fine. And I'm doing pretty well. There's another one they have there. It's called the jumbo body, and I've been looking at that one, and I've been sort of teaching a class there on Saturday afternoons, or at noon actually. So I'll teach class, and I'll come here to Uptown Bills for the Iowa City Classical Guitar Society get together. And but I guess what I'm nattering on about is that there's this other one that I kind of like, but they all have a somewhat different voice. And this one does have a nice big, rich thump. But the other ones sound good too. Yeah, authoritative. I just can't seem to be happy with lesser guitars. I'm just hoping I don't have to get anything better than this, because there's a real nice one hanging on the wall there, made out of koa. Sounds pretty darn nice, really pretty to look at, fancy. But I think it's something like $6,000, so I don't really want to get it right now. I don't think I will. I hope I don't, Anyway, all right. Thank you. I just sort of made that up on the spot, but it wasn't anything all that. It was just D chord, you know, and then a little G and an A in there somewhere. But while I was playing that, letting my mind wander, I was thinking that so Saturday night, normally I play at the Tuscan Moon in Kelowna, which is a kind of a good little gig for a guy like me, but this week I can't. I've been pressed into service. I'll be playing in a big band, the Sinfonia Ensemble, jazz band, a big band, jazz band, at the Co-College Jazz Summit. So there's going to be a culmination of 2 days of jazz extravaganza they're having up there at Co-College, where I have the dubious honor of being on the lowest form of faculty member. I teach fretted instruments up there. But anyway, so it's going to be as a jazz band, and there'll be another jazz band, and I was going to bring a poster, but I forgot. But they have a nice big colorful poster. And anyway, so that's a kind of a fun gig. I think it's like $10 to get in or something like that. Maybe I was supposed to say that on TV, or $8 if you're a senior, something like that. But it's not very expensive. I'm not. If I could mention that, I'm not getting paid or anything, so I guess it's okay for me to say it. So anyway, we're going to play Duke Ellington piece, I think. Actually, I don't know what we're going to play. We're going to rehearse immediately before we perform, which sounds like a recipe for disaster, but, you know, I'll be ready. My only personal problem is that I kind of want to... I like this kind of sound this week. This jangly, shimmering sound. And if I play electric guitar, the guitar I'm fascinated with right now is a Telecaster. If I had did some things a little differently, I might have brought a Telecaster with me instead of this. Generally, if you play jazz, you play a big, fat, hollow body guitar with a big, fat, hollow sound, and which is great. And I might have a guitar or two that would do that also. But I like this bell-like shimmer too. I like a lot of things. I like this. I like Telecasters and Stratocasters. I like big, fat, hollow bodies. If I could only have one guitar, it'd be a nylon string classical guitar, a really good one. And I have a really good one. I've had it since 1983. So I suppose if I could only have one guitar, I'd have that one. But I like the shimmer and the jangle. Thank you. Then. Just sort of fooling around in a blues motif. So, trying to mix it up a little bit. So I think I started out with something kind of dark. I tried to do something kind of sunny and a little blues. What's next? Well, what else? I'm starting to go into a Bob Dylan song. I better watch out. Eh? All right. Here's the thing about if you play guitar, playing blues or country, old-fashioned blues or old-fashioned country picking, it just feels kind of good to do. I mean, bossa novas feels good too. And don't even get me started on flamenco rumba. But really, just if you want to sit there. Like, say you're all bummed out, like, say your baby left you, or your cat ran away and didn't come back, or whatever you're bummed out about. I don't know, how about your financial situation, If you sit there and go like... That feels good, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you don't know what I'm saying. I have my own ways to amuse myself, I suppose. Hey, nobody gets hurt. No calories. It's not against the law. Not yet, anyway. So I don't know. I don't know about we're 25 minutes into the show, something like that. I don't know. Is there? Usually by now, Bob has come up and shared words of wisdom, and I'm afraid that Bob is snowbirding in Las Vegas and hanging around the senior centers there. I think he is. That's what he says. He doesn't ask him if he's fooling around the casinos and stuff, but. I don't know if he does bingo or not. I don't know if he's the type, He's kind of a... I don't think he's a gambling man. Isn't bingo it's a gambling thing, isn't it?
Sort of, but more socially common.
Well, there's a roulette table. That's pretty social, isn't it?
He didn't go to the casinos.
Yeah. No, he doesn't. I don't know if he does or not. One year he brought home little flashlights on chains for us, keychains, from a casino somewhere. And he handed them around. It was kind of nice. The battery died after a few months, but it was a nice little flashlight in my pocket. So. But he brought back pens another year. Then he stopped bringing things back. Oh well, it's all right, man. He didn't have to. He didn't have to.
Didn't appreciate him enough, thank you.
Yeah. Well, we're all thankful. For well over 30 seconds before we put it in our pocket, maybe 15 seconds, I guess. Well, Anyway, so I don't know if you, a lot of times I just leave you out of this, man. I don't, you don't get a chance. But if you wanted to go and share a few pearls of wisdom, it's like halfway through the show now, aren't we? I mean, all right. So you go ahead and leap up, and I'll vacate the mic for you. You might have to stoop over a little bit. I'm getting shorter in my old age. Okay. All right. Here we go.
We were a little worried tonight about whether you were going to make it or not. I got to be close to showtime, and Tom Nothnagel wasn't here. Well, I'm also Tom, so I was looking around for a guitar, thinking, all right, I could substitute. I could be Tom's guitar show. But then you came.
Sorry.
And my possibilities were crushed. Anyway, I've been looking at here in the neighborhood around Uptown Bills at night. It seems like a very small town. You hear the train whistle, and you add the moon, and it has this whole character to it. It's like we're in a very small Iowa town. When I looked at the moon last night, though, I did not see the man in the moon. I saw a rabbit, and I challenge you to go out and look also. The moon was over in the eastern sky when I first looked at it, looking up the train tracks, and there was the moon at the end of the tracks. Very romantic. Anyway, so there's a bunny rabbit standing up on the moon, feet at the bottom, and his body and head, and then the ears are off to the upper right. So take a look and see if you think that is so. Well, thinking about that led me to think about the goat. Remember the goat? Mm-hmm. The Stanford, or not Stanford, I gave away my thing here. The University of Iowa goat who got away for a week and then came back. And I thought a good way then to end the whole deal with the Stanford band was to give the goat to Stanford. Mm-hmm. And then that would solve a multitude of things altogether.
How's the goat feel about that?
Well, I don't know. The goat didn't probably want to go back to being a research animal. And he could go to Stanford and be their mascot, be running around at halftime, have a good life. So it's out there.
The entrance exam, the entrance is difficult, and not that many people get in, and it's hard to get in, And
yeah.
There's probably a lot of goats are trying to get into Stanford.
Oh, that could be.
They only choose a few. Sorry, go ahead.
You're kidding.
Ah.
All right. And also, I wanted to mention a few things that are coming up here. We actually use this stage every Thursday night for something called Uptown Bills Live. It's open mic and often other surprises, music, comedy, poetry, touring musicians, all kinds of things. It starts at 7 o'clock on Thursday, and that's also broadcast live from Uptown Bills, and you're welcome to come. And much like Tom's Guitar Show, then it appears the next week in the wee hours of the morning for you to watch while you're staying up late worrying about school or the meaning of life or what the animals do at the zoo after dark, things like that. So, all right. This Saturday, we have Joe Brisman, who's turning 75 years old, and he's a local singer, songwriter, blues and folky guy, and he is inviting a number of his pals, musical pals, to come and play with him to celebrate the birthday. So that's Saturday night at 7 o'clock, right here. And then the next weekend, Saturday, March 5th, we have an all-Irish day. You could stuff yourself. A little early for St. Patrick's Day, but that's what we're celebrating. We have an Irish music session at 3. Anybody who likes to play Irish music is welcome to come and bring an instrument or just come to listen. We have a potluck at 5, like a St. Patrick's Day potluck. And then the Beggarmen, our local Irish band, will be here at 7. So that's 3 to 9 p.m. You could stuff yourself with Irish music and food. That's Saturday, March 5th, starting at 3. You could come for part of it or for all of it. Welcome. And the last thing, we're coming around to the annual Bill's Birthday Bash, the second Saturday in April. Bill Sachter, whose picture is behind me, up here, the guy with the beard, for whom we're named and who's our inspiration, would have been 103 if he were still alive this year. And so As we do each year, we're planning an all-day party with a different band and a different cake every hour. That's on Saturday, April the 9th. So a bit more about Bill. Bill came to Iowa City in the 1970s. He came from Minneapolis with a young couple. Barry, the guy in the couple, is in the picture behind me on your right. He has the tie on. And when Barry and his wife Bev came to Iowa City, Bill ended up coming with them. Bill had spent about 50 years in one of those big old state mental hospitals that every state used to have. And when he got here, it was difficult to find a job for him. What eventually emerged was a little coffee shop in North Hall, and we're the crosstown cousin of that coffee shop. We're like the bigger, badder Bills. So that's enough from me. Thank you. And as always, we're delighted to have you here on the last Tuesday of each month. Sounds good. I don't know, do we have to report about all those banjos next month? I mean, do we have to let the community know? Is there something, is that like...
You get the National Guard?
Well, I don't know, yeah, if we have to, there's some special form we have to fill out, tell the city or something like that.
Toxic toxic banjos?
Yeah, if there's something like that. Anyway,
okay, well,
we can talk about that after the show.
Yeah.
If there's something we need to do.
Special license, hazmat suits or something.
Yeah, but in the meantime, other Tom, or the original Tom, will step back up to the stage here, and I will step off. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You can clap better than that, Phil. Yeah, well, they call me Guitar Tom. I guess I always call you Young Tom, but that's probably becoming archaic somehow. But
The older I get, the less it applies.
well, yeah, yeah. We're all getting older, but we may have a bit of poetry here in a minute. I don't.
If you want.
I think we got somebody's prepared.
Hey, there you are.
I just play a little guitar and we'll get some poetry, and after that, who cares, right? Thank you. I'm actually really fond of this guitar. I kind of messed myself up financially when I bought it, and I felt all that remorse and guilt, but some time has passed, and I'm really glad to have it. I think it sounds good. I think it's kind of pretty. Old big mahogany box, strapped around my neck and go for it, Anyway, never mind. So, Mr. Skopinski, would you have an offering for us here?
If you'd like, yes.
Well, come right up here and do it. It's been a while. We've been
Timely poems here.
a little poetry here. Okay, hang on here. I'm giving Mr. Skopinski, sir. I'll give the mic to you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm taking it home after the show, but I mean, you can use it for. Okay, go ahead.
For the time being.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah. This is the one that the PATV staff is careful not to pack up and put in amongst our stash. So
That's mine.
yes, and a very elegant microphone it is. So I brought in a few poems for the time of the year, which is the month of February, which is not only the shortest month most of the time, it's probably also the month that's the most difficult to pronounce. So I have a few offerings here for the time of year. And we'll start off by a brief poem by a gentleman named Eric Lees, L-I-E-S, and it's simply titled 28-Word Poem for February. Freezing cold winds, biting chills, and white snow fluffed hills, Valentine's Day, oh how gay, President's Day is coming our way, February, sweet and small, greatest month of all. So that's our kickoff. And this next poem is by William Cullen Bryant, and it's titled A Winter Piece. So not specifically with February, but he does mention the month. And it seems to me that on rambling about outside during this time of the year, he found a very nice place, and he invites us to come and take a look at it. So this one is also a fairly brief poem. Come when the rains have glazed the snow and clothed the trees with ice, while the slant sun of February pours into the bowers a flood of light. Approach, the encrusted surface shall upbear thy steps, and the broad arching portals of the grove welcome thy entering. So that's a brief poem by William Cullen Bryant. And now, since just this past weekend we were treated with a little preview of spring, the weather here was in the 50s. I think it got up to 60 in Des Moines. And now that the days are getting a little longer, we're getting to that late winter impatience with the coming of spring. But so this kind of addresses such a late winter thaw, and that's the name of the poem by Laura Mackenzie. Chilled rivers swelled singing a sloshing lullaby, while past seasons' threads flow on by. Warmth from above shifted and high, fading hoof marks in shallow puddles of wet snow, made from months or weeks ago. Feel the lurking breath of Mother Nature's grin. Don't be fooled by her springtime fling. Winter's not past just yet. Springtime buds haven't even set, battered limbs postured in place on crushed over paths. The gray little sparrow found a corner to take his dirt bath. A watchful eye peers from a crest on a tree, waiting patiently for banquet and flea. A songbird takes advantage of a brief late winter vary. Smeared edges on snow left over from plodding look scary. And I walk with my boots, parting the precipitation, admiring winter's late season temptation. So a little bit of melting snow there for this time of year. And then finally, I have a poem from Anne Bronte, the famous sister of the famous Charlotte Bronte. Did I get that right? Okay, the writers, 19th century. And this is called In Memory of a Happy Day in February. And why I chose it last here, it kind of reminds us that ultimately, with the nature of the human spirit being what it is, the rapture, the happiness ultimately comes from within, despite what's going on in the outside. So no matter what time of year it is, no matter what month, no matter what the weather, ultimately the rapture of life springs from within. And so she states that in this another brief poem. Was it the smile of early spring that made my bosom glow? 'Twas sweet, but neither sun nor wind could raise my spirit so. Was it some feeling of delight, all vague and undefined? No, 'twas a rapture deep and strong, expanding in the mind. So that's what Anne Bronte reminds us about. So those are some poems for February, the most difficult month to pronounce.
All right.
Skobinski, better known as Jim. Yeah, February. Février.
That's probably a lot easier to say in other languages.
I just remember the French. At one time I was a French schoolboy, but sort of. Anyway, what is that? Oh, yeah, February. Yeah, well, I don't mind February actually. It's my problem has been at the Tuscan Moon. At this time of year, in the past, I've actually gotten laid off entirely, or I've been down to just Saturday night. But so far, I have been booked for every Friday, Saturday, unless I had some other occasion, which has happened. Some weeks ago was my father's 90th birthday party at the very beginning of February, I believe it was, and it was the end of January. Anyway.
And does Valentine's Day bring you a lot of gigs?
Valentine's Day is the big one, but this year it was on a Sunday and they weren't open. But Friday and Saturday had somewhat of an uptake of lovers, but there were certain kind of lovers. They were maybe not used to fine dining, white tablecloths, and so forth. So this is reflected, I think, somewhat with the tips that the waitresses. You're supposed to call them servers now, but I don't care. That they were receiving, because people don't know. You have your big ticket and you leave $2 or something like that to the server, who you should get like 15 or 20%, because that's what they make their money on. If you frequent a diners, you leave coins on the counter. If you go to McDonald's, you don't have to tip at all. So it's amateur night, sort of. I mean, I'm glad they were there, and I hope they had a good time. I try to play. I was a guitar player, of course, and I tried to play romantic music for certain kinds of lovers not the usual kind of people who. I would not be inclined to go out to a fancy restaurant. Well, we know I greedily spend all my money on guitars, but I mean to go and have an experience, with somebody, to go down and have a meal that you couldn't have cooked yourself, in some historic location, away from your normal sort of routine. So I'm in sort of a theater, I do this Tuscan Moon gig. I've been there for about 7 years now, just every weekend. I'll be there Friday, but.
And where is the Tuscan Moon?
The Tuscan Moon is in Kelowna, Iowa, 20 miles or so south of Iowa City. Somewhat less than 40 kilometers, if you like. And it's a small town that has a large Mennonite and Amish community surrounding it. I think the Mennonites live in town and the Amish live in the countryside. The horse and buggies, lots of knick-knack shops. It's up there somewhere. All right, thank you, thank you. Yeah, well, what, we got like 9 minutes or something? Oh, 5, 6, 8 minutes. 8 minutes left. Wow, what do I do? I could tell some jokes? I've tried that before. Mostly guitar player jokes. What's the difference between a guitar player and a park bench? Park bench can support a family of 4.
Banjo? Got a banjo joke up your sleeve?
I've got all the same banjo jokes I always do. My favorite, of course, is what did the banjo player get on his IQ test? Barbecue sauce. It's amazing how people don't get that joke. It's like you have to be a certain. One thing, like young kids don't get that joke, and then other people don't either. Huh? What do you get on his test? I mean, to me, it's obvious. It's a score. I mean, first time I heard that joke, I got it right away. But of course, I'm a banjo player. Yes, I'm not too proud to admit that I am a banjo player. And what was I doing a banjo thing? I was just like tearing it up an electric banjo some time ago. I forget. Maybe it was here. I did play my electric banjo here at open mic one time. Kind of fun. I do recommend the Uptown Bills open mic. There, a number of people I've tried to compel to, come down here and do it. But some of them have, and some of them haven't. But it's a good idea. So you do the Uptown Bills open mic a couple of times, and then you go and do the one at the Mill, and then you're ready for the big time. Carnegie Hall? Yeah. Anyway. Are there other open mics around the area that you know of? I mean, there's a...
There are 2 or 3 that are less frequent than weekly. Ours in the Mill are weekly. The Mill is the oldest.
Yeah, the Mill is the oldest one.
For over 30 years.
30 years, yeah. Oh, boy.
And we're next, but we're just 14 years. So, and then there is one called Underground Open Mic. That's,
They probably can't hear you at home, though. But yeah, okay. Well, okay. What he was saying was that the Mill has been going for 30 years, and I'll have you know that I moved back to Iowa more than 30 years ago, and I started an open mic at a restaurant that's no longer in existence, their lounge, and then the Mill started after I did. But I fizzled out very quickly. But they're still 30 years. This has been for 14 years, Uptown Bills. And so there's another one, Underground.
one called Underground Open Mic.
Underground Open Mic.
One called I Hear I See.
I hear. Where are these things? I hear. I see.
I Hear I See moves around from one place to another.
I hear. I see. Moves around. You actually look up on the internets or something like that, or?
Yeah, it's once a month. It's met here. It's come here a couple of times.
Okay.
It's been at High Ground. It's been at Java House.
I hear. I see. Okay, and it's okay. It moves around. He says. Okay, and then the other one was underground.
Open mic
Underground
and
open mic.
relatively new, and I can't remember where it is.
Okay, underground open mic. Okay, and they have them in other cities too, probably.
Yes. In fact, in April there is an event around the country hosted by Shure microphones.
Well, he says that if you can't hear this at home, he said that there's in April there's one hosted around the country, hosted by Shure microphones.
That's right, to celebrate open mics.
To celebrate open mics. Wow. I'm actually thinking about doing some open mics in other locations if I can find the time. Just, well, for the heck of it, I guess. But because I've done open mics before, starting in my troubled youth, and I think it's a good idea. But I have this notion I like to go places where nobody knows me, and just In fact, had an idea for a vacation is to go to some town somewhere where I know nobody's probably heard of me. I mean, I'm not that famous, but I'm slightly famous around here. But go someplace else and maybe just experiment with dressing differently, and just dress differently, and act outwardly slightly differently. Just like appear to be slightly different sort of person. Maybe a little bit nerdier or something. Not exactly a costume, but just go through my clothing collection and wear like brown shoes, things like that. And then just, wander around for a week, someplace interesting that's not that interesting. Like some minor tourist town on the Mississippi River would be nearby, for instance. Check into a cheap hotel, possibly write something, have that be my thing. But I probably won't do this because life is short. Well, I'll be back next week. Another Tom's Guitar Show. Come down and hear me at the Tuscan Moon on Friday night if you want in Kelowna. Or Saturday night at the Jazz Summit. 7 o'clock, concert at Sinclair Auditorium, Coe College in Cedar Rapids. I'll be the guitar player in a big band. Hope I know what I'm doing. Those guys got big chords.